Hi, Dr. Deb Webster. This particular section of my website is dedicated to San Bruno. The whole website is dedicated to San Bruno and also to Dr. Eldridge, who I trained under. Both have been an inspiration to me, but Sam in a very special way. Most of us, it seems anybody you talk to knows about Sam, and what an extraordinary man, what a courageous man, what a credible man this was, in spite of all those around him who did what they could to not only block access to PET, but block his story, as you'll see. Sam, for those of you who don't know, Sam Bruno had colon cancer and ultimately did die of his disease. He did have a PET scan at one point during his follow-up, or during his workup and treatment following and so on, and I don't know the details of his case to know whether another PET scan would have helped or not. But the bottom line is, in spite of all that he was going through, and his family was going through, and a terrible, you can imagine, stress for a man at that age and his family to be going through, him dying of this horrible disease. In spite of that, rose above all of that and has become a hero, no question. He's certainly my hero, and inspired me. He worked steadfastly to get awareness of PET in Ontario for cancer patients, and more particularly to get a PET scanner for Ontario. But he really understood the full story. I was dealing with him behind the scenes, and never actually had the pleasure of meeting the man. He was always inviting me, but my schedule has just been so crazy I never was able to actually get over and meet with Sam, although he was very, very generous, always wanting to share some Zambuca with me. I was honored to be able to speak at the San Bruno Pet Fund raising dinner that was in the fall of 2010. Anyway, what Sam did do was he tried to get us PET scanner for Sudbury. As you know, that's ongoing with the San Bruno Pet Fundraising Committee, and also to get justice for Ontario cancer patients, as I've said. Now, this section of the website, I'm going to cover a couple of things. First and foremost, we'll talk a little bit about the progress in getting the PET scan, which won't be much, because of course the government has said, well, that's fine if you can pay for it yourself, and of course they know that will take years to happen. And so, since the whole idea is to block access to PET, they're very happy with that. They don't have to pay for the scanner if we're actually able to get the money together. Secondly, and the most important part of this particular web page will be about the media in Sudbury. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. There are individual videos on the Northern Life, on the Sudbury Star, and the CBC, and it'll elaborate there. But quite simply, what you need to know is this, that the Sudbury media know all of the detail, and I assure you, all of the detail behind the scenes as to why Ontario is last place in the world when it comes to access to PET scanning. They're well aware of all the controversial issues. Mr. Smitherman refusing by law to answer, for example, a letter written to him by the most senior member of the PET Steering Committee, making extraordinary accusations that the government members of the PET Steering Committee were deliberately blocking data that favored PET and so on. They knew all of this when Mr. Smitherman was here visiting locally in Sudbury. They refused, of course, to challenge him on that. Of course, they have repeatedly refused to challenge Mr. Bartolucci. And I think what anybody who's ever worked with the media, and I think anybody with beyond a public school education, quite frankly, knows that what appears in the media is really not news. It's only news when it happens to correspond to what, if the news actually corresponds to whatever message they want to get out. I think most of us really understand that what the media is about is simply deciding what they want us to know and how they want us to know it. The only difference to me between the state-controlled media in, say, Libya or Zimbabwe and the free press here in North America is that here the free press, it's free in this sense that they have their own right to choose whether or not they want to print something or not. They're not forced at gunpoint to print something, or if they print something that is condemning the government, that they're now in big trouble, possibly shot. Here, the interesting thing is they voluntarily withhold the information, as you will see the Sudbury media has. So please go to my web video or the videos on the Northern Life and the Sudbury Star and the CBC to get the details. But what I'm going to ask you to do, by the way, is something extraordinary, and that is to to challenge them very openly, these media, and explain why they have deliberately suppressed the story that Sam was trying to get out. I mean, quite frankly, one of the reasons I think we don't have PET here in Sudbury, and quite frankly going in Ontario, is because the media at every level, from our local level to the provincial to the national level, has not done their job of supposed professional, unbiased, objective reporting. Utter nonsense. What we see when you realize what they know and what they decide they want you not to know. But I'm going to ask you to challenge them openly, and I'm going to ask you to consider canceling your subscriptions to the Sudbury Star and the Northern Life, and blocking listening to the CBC programming. If you're not happy with the responses, I'm going to be challenging them openly to say, I want you to use how you've handled the information, all the information, the disturbing, very, very disturbing information you have on PET scanning, why we're last place in the world based on totally scientifically baseless and blatantly unethical experiments on cancer patients, for crying out loud, a process called immoral by Dr. Dreger, ultimately the most senior member of the PET Steering Committee, and yet somehow this is not interesting, and more importantly, they have, as you will see in the videos, deliberately blocked statements that have been made, or reversed statements I've made, and so on. So I ask you to seriously consider. It's a big thing to ask, but you know what? If we want to get Sam's story out, we need to get her in spite of these people, and challenge them to do so. And the third thing is, I will be challenging Mr. Bertolucci on this website as time goes on. It is an election year, and I think it's time Mr. Bertolucci stood up and defended what his government has done. So please take the time to look at the videos and honor Sam's memory. Don't do what the media has done. Don't insult his memory by burying the story. I want you to be part of helping Cheryl, his wife, and Frank, and Franz Jellin as the NDP member, and everybody else, and Brenda Tesoro in particular, who wrote a letter to the editor just recently, a great article in the Sudbury Star, which would make you think the Sudbury Star actually supported the getting a PET scanner. It's all very superficial, I assure you. But let's help all of us, not only get a PET scanner for Sudbury, as was Sam's dream, but let's really make Sam's dream work, and let's get justice for Ontario cancer patients. We can do that in spite of the government, and in spite of their attempts to block any attempts from experts like myself and my colleagues to get information about just exactly what they've done to take cancer patients to the very last place in the world. So please consider the material, consider my request, and hopefully you'll back us on challenging the media locally to fess up. Either don't pretend to be something they're not. I mean, they're not. News is a fairy tale concept in the way they handle it. I get so fed up with dealing with the media, and you might ask yourself why, behind the scenes, all this stuff on Pat recently in the news media about trying to get a PET scanner for Sudbury, why are they not talking to me? It's because they knew I was about to do this. So let's make it work. Please follow me on this one. You've given me such great support over the years, and more importantly, this is about Sam. This is about realizing his dream. I just want to facilitate that in any way that I can, and you can all help by doing that. And maybe some of you people out there that are great with the internet, far better than me, I'm sure, with Facebook. I've never even had one until more recently about this idea, but maybe set up a Facebook sites to challenge each of the Sudbury media, and in particular Mr. Bertolucci. Let's make this an election issue. Let's make his reputation stand or fall on what his government has done. So thanks for listening, and please take time to look at both the videos on my website. Will be out in the end of June 2011, and the details all there. Thanks.